What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Scott and welcome back to Fudge Muppet. You've had the best archer starting guide, then we gave you the best starting guide for a mage, and today I'm proud to present you our best warrior starting guide, a video that will ensure you make the best choices for your warrior. Lately I've been seeing a ton of relatable funny comments about how someone's character always becomes a battle mage or always becomes a stealth archer. While Skyrim is all about doing what you want, this video will help you have a much more solid plan in your head from the start, so you know if you want to play a warrior, what kind of warrior you want to make, and exactly how to do that. By the way, if you haven't done so already, we strongly recommend you hit the bell icon next to our channel to get notifications for when our videos come out. I hear a lot of people saying they stay on our channel and refresh it in anticipation for our next video, and to you wonderful supporters of Fudge Muppet, I give you the gift of the bell. So with this warrior guide, I'm going to be under the assumption that you're using heavy armor and not light armor. That said, you can use light armor if you'd prefer to roleplay a more agile character, and this guide is just as useful, so don't worry at all. The skills of the warrior are going to incorporate one-handed, two-handed, block, heavy armor, and smithing, but I'll also recommend adding enchanting. Furthermore, if you want to use archery, watch our best archer starting guide video linked in the description and combine it with the tips from this video to make a hybrid if you so please. Anyways, as a warrior, we don't recommend using every single one of these skills. We would recommend choosing between two-handed and using one-handed, with one-handed use incorporating the block skill and a shield. If you use two-handed, you don't use the block skill unless you really want the quick reflexes perk, but that's a pretty niche setup, so most people aren't going to go with it. Therefore, the two skill setups we recommend are smithing, one-handed, block, heavy armor, and enchanting, or smithing, two-handed, heavy armor, and enchanting. Now I'm going to tell you the advantages and drawbacks of each choice. I'll also be including the option of a character who uses dual wielding, that is, a single one-handed weapon in each hand. Dual wielding is governed by the one-handed skill even though you're using both of your hands in combat, if you weren't aware. So firstly, let's look at one of the absolute best setups. One-handed and block. With this, you'll use a sword, war axe, or mace in one hand, which, by the way, I just listed from fastest to slowest, with a shield in the other. This makes you incredibly tanky, as besides having lots of health as a warrior and big chunky armor, you'll also have a shield to minimize damage even more. Shields can also be used to bash enemies to stagger them, opening them up for one of your one-handed strikes. Playing with a shield also means using long shield charges. This involves sprinting with your shield raised, literally knocking enemies flying. It is great for crowd control, although it is a late game perk. So a shield keeps you alive and gives you great advantages in battles for controlling your enemy. The drawback is less damage than a two-handed weapon, although you do swing faster. That said, there are some really high damage one-handed weapons, and one could provide a pretty strong case for one-handed and block being the strongest way to play a warrior. The other disadvantage to this choice is that using a shield is so great, you'll find it a good idea to invest in most of the block perks, and there are a lot. This spreads your perks thinly at the start, and obviously there's an opportunity cost. Two-handed players who don't put perks into block can put those perks into more heavy armor bonuses early on and other things like that. Even in an endgame scenario, perhaps two-handed characters diversified into magicka and got all the alteration perks for beast resistances. If you want to know more about starting a mage, we also have our mage starter guide in the description below, so check that out if you haven't. As a two-handed warrior, you're also going to cause heaps of damage, as two-handed weapons, while slower, are more powerful. You will just have less capability of defense compared to a warrior with a shield. But like I said, you can use the opportunity cost with perks to delve into other skills, such as specializing in enchanting way more and enchanting your armor to make you sturdier that way. Two-handed weapons can still block, so it's not like you have no defense at all. In order from fastest to slowest, two-handed weapons go from greatswords to battle axes to warhammers. Typically, the slower they are, the more damage they do. Two-handed weapons are great for your real barbarian types, and another advantage they have is being able to hit multiple enemies in one strike once you get the sweep perk. Dual wielding is of course another playstyle. This involves holding a sword in each hand, or a mace, or a war axe, or even a dagger. Daggers are definitely not the best for dual wielding, although they do have one of the coolest dual wielding power attacks in the game. Simply hold down both power attack buttons at the same time to do a dual wielding power attack. This strategy is incredibly needed for dual wielding characters, as simply swinging with your right arm and your left arm is pretty useless. You're much better off using a shield in your left hand instead. These characters who dual wield will definitely need to use dual power attacks as much as possible, ending up with a really high damage per second. However, by using this playstyle, you only have offensive capabilities, as there's no way you can block. Also, a sensational tip for dual wielding is that the speed of your dual power attacks is determined by the weight of the weapon in your left hand. This way, for maximum speed, you can put a light weapon like a dagger in your left hand and a heavy weapon like a mace in your right hand. This is the only application where the dagger is very useful. One of the things you can do is put the Mace of Molag Bal, which is very strong, in your right hand, and the Daedric artifact dagger Mehrunes Razor in your left. Mehrunes Razor is light and powerful and has a tiny chance of instantly killing your enemy, and therefore works great with flurry after flurry in combination with the mace. Now let's talk about races, which is the first choice you'll be making on your Skyrim adventure. There's actually a lot of choices that work when it comes to being a warrior, and as always, some choices are better than others, and we recommend playing as whatever brings you the most fun. But from a statistical perspective, some of the best are Nords, Orcs, Bretons, and Redguards, also Argonians. A lot of people shit on Redguards as being a horrible race, but their power, which can be used once a day, called Adrenaline Rush, is really well suited for a dual-wielding warrior. Adrenaline Rush lasts for 60 seconds and speeds up your stamina regeneration dramatically. The speed at which this regens actually lets you launch power attacks constantly. As soon as you finish the preceding one, you're ready to power attack again. Therefore, as a dual-wielding build, you can activate Adrenaline Rush and constantly dual power attack. You essentially become a razor-sharp whirlwind for a full minute. The main drawback here, however, is that you can only use this once per day. Redguards also get plus 10 to the one-handed skill and 5 to block, smithing, alteration, archery, and destruction. So there's a healthy amount of warrior skills in there, but overall, as I've said before, these starting skill bonuses become obsolete later. That said, this is a starting guide, and the plus 10 will be useful at the start if you can get the good perks quicker. Playing as a Nord is another option, as they come with a 50% resistance to frost, which makes you much sturdier as heaps of enemies use frost against you. They also start with plus 10 to two-handed and plus 5 to block, light armor, one-handed, smithing, and speech. Again, there's a good amount of warrior skills in here which will benefit you early on. They also have a battle cry ability that they can use once a day to make enemies flee for 30 seconds. Very cool if you want to play as an intimidating warrior. Sadly, battle cry doesn't work later on as enemies become higher levels. Argonians are another cool choice due to their racial power. This is called Hist Skin and means that once a day you will recover health 10 times faster for 60 seconds. This is super powerful and will keep you alive in tough battles. Again, the once a day limitation is a drawback, as are the starting bonuses which are not suited towards a warrior. Then again, Hist Skin will be useful at all stages of the game, and Argonians also come with the ability to breathe underwater and a 50% resistance to disease. If you haven't guessed already though, the two best choices are Bretons and Orcs. A Breton doesn't start with warrior skill bonuses, but they do start with a permanent 25% resistance to magic, which is super powerful. That means frost, shock, and fire will all do 25% less damage to you. Furthermore, they get the Dragon Skin ability, which can be used once a day for a minute to have 50% spell absorption. This gives you a 50% chance to absorb all of the magicka from a spell which hits you, and you take no damage as a result. With the Atronach Stone, which gives you 50% more spell absorption, this power can be used to make your warrior character temporarily invulnerable to magic. But now the answer you've all been waiting for, the best race to play as a warrior: the Orc. Orcs get a plus 10 to heavy armor and 5 to block, one-handed, smithing, two-handed, and enchanting. These are all the skills we recommend using as a warrior. Very importantly, however, they have the special ability known as Berserker Rage. This racial power causes you to take half as much damage and deal double damage for 60 seconds. This also turns the screen red and slightly blurry, which is cool, and you become covered in blood, representing the damage you've caused your foes and potentially the damage you've taken. If you think about it, this is one of the most OP powers in the game. It is limited by a once a day use, but regardless, you can just wait 24 hours of in-game time before your next battle and you're good to go. Take 50% less damage from all attacks, and dealing 100% more damage is truly what being a high damage, strong as hell juggernaut is all about. If you're not sold on playing as an orc already, you never will be. Now let's talk standing stones. The standing stones that we think you'll find most useful are the Warrior Stone, the Atronach Stone, and the Steed Stone. The Steed Stone will make your armor weigh nothing, making you much more maneuverable. You'll also be able to carry more, but once you get the conditioning perk in the heavy armor tree, it mainly becomes obsolete. The Steed Stone is located here on the map. The Warrior Standing Stone, which you will acquire straight away, makes your warrior-based skills progress 20% faster. I said to also use enchanting, but do know that this stone does not affect it. You find the Warrior Stone near Riverwood, located here. It's one of the Guardian Stones. Finally, the best standing stone in the game, in our opinion, the Atronach Stone. You can find this stone here on the map, and what it does is give you plus 50 magicka, minus 50% magicka regen, and 50% spell absorption. The plus 50 magicka isn't useful for a warrior, and the minus 50% magicka regen therefore won't affect us, but the spell absorption is what really counts. With a 50% chance of taking no damage from a spell, you'll be set to make quick work of mages and dragons. Some people prefer the Lordstone, which used to be our favorite standing stone for its plus 50 armor rating and plus 25% magical resistance. It's a pretty good stone, we just find the Atronach stone overall better. Now you know all about standing stones, let's talk stats. Your stats are magicka, health, and stamina, and you're playing as a pure warrior, so you're not going to need any magicka, which only leaves 2 options left. So the question becomes, how much stamina and how much health? Well, health is always going to be a bigger priority. Stamina is needed, but it's not as necessary. As a warrior, your 2 main focuses are staying alive and killing things. Staying alive is governed by health, and killing things is mainly governed by weapons and perks. Stamina just helps you kill things a little bit faster, but even then it doesn't work in ratio. What I mean by this is if you double your stamina, you won't kill enemies twice as fast. It also depends on what character you want to play. For the overwhelming majority of warriors, 70% health and 30% stamina will work wonders. But here's how to optimize for your character. If you're playing a big 2-handed tank, you'll probably want to go to 80% health and 20% stamina. 20% stamina is definitely enough to let loose a few power attacks, but besides that, your standard attacks with your Warhammer, Greatsword, or Battle Axe will kill enemies really fast anyway. Having so much health makes you feel super powerful too. That said, you will need more stamina for a character using block, as it costs stamina to shield bash and also to shield charge, which you'll be doing plenty of. Even with shield charging, shield bashing, and power attacks, we still recommend an absolute maximum of 40% stamina, with 60% being in health. Like I said though, 30% stamina tends to be more than enough. Same thing goes for dual wielding characters who want to power attack constantly. 40% stamina allocation would definitely be enough to constantly flurry and take down all who oppose you. It's really beast, and interestingly enough, all of this stat talk can be made obsolete through enchanting anyway. The reason for this is that later on, if you find you wish you had 100 more points of stamina, you can just add it through enchanting, and the same thing goes for health. To be honest, playing a warrior tends to be really user-friendly. Even with 50% health and 50% stamina, it's almost like you still have more than enough health and more than enough stamina, as your high armor rating and heavy armor skill will keep you alive easily, and your enchantments just make you even more powerful. Now for some handy advice playing as a warrior straight out of Helgen. As I said in the mage video, pick up absolutely every enchanted item and don't sell them. The reason for this is that you can disenchant them to level up your enchanting skill, which therefore gets you to a higher level faster, thereby getting you more perks faster during earlier stages of the game. Even if you don't want to use the enchanting skill, it is still a good idea, because the experience it provides you could lead you to having an extra perk in heavy armor, smithing, block, one-handed, or two-handed. This is especially useful if you want to play as a sword and shield character or anything with a shield, because block has loads of good perks to get. Leaving the Helgen Cave, you'll come across the Guardian Stones on your way to Riverwood, and here you will acquire the Warrior Standing Stone active effect of warrior skills increasing 20% faster. You can also go into this mine here, known as Embershard Mine, to clear it out for leveling experience, and also to get your smithing skill up by reading the skill book titled Light Armor Forging. This is found towards the end where the Blacksmith Forge is on the table. Also pick up all the ore you can as a warrior to smith into ingots to use for smithing. If you get a pickaxe, keep that in your inventory as well for when you come across a good place to mine ore. Another cool thing you can do early on is acquire a two-handed ebony weapon. This is sort of taking advantage of a mistake in the game though. If you want to do this, we have a concise guide on it in the description below, but we don't recommend it for brand new players. Another thing you can do on your way to Whiterun is actually go here on the map, and you'll find this Lady of the Lake Easter egg. You'll get a free sword here, so why not? You're a warrior after all. If you're using two-handed though, you can just sell the sword or enchant it and then sell it. Once you're in Whiterun, you can disenchant all the stuff you've picked up at Dragon's Reach. You can also do a misc quest for a guy called Amarin who wants you to retrieve his family sword. After you get it for him, he'll give you 1 level boost to both one-handed and block. Perfect for that kind of character, and even good for a two-handed build just for the extra experience. Now the other main appeal for a warrior is of course the Companions Guild. You can't miss the iconic Jorrvaskr entrance in the city. By fulfilling this questline, not only will you have the Ultimate Warrior experience, but you'll also soon get Skyforged steel weapons, which are pretty decent for an early game warrior. And you'll eventually end up with some end questline rewards, such as the iconic Wuthrad Battle Axe and the Shield of Ysgramor. Wuthrad was originally wielded by Ysgramor and causes 1.2 times as much damage against elves. Remember that orcs and Falmer also count as elves. Also, the effect on this powerful two-handed axe isn't considered an enchantment, so you can enchant it with additional effects if you want to, or just keep it unenchanted and use it with the Elemental Fury Shout to swing much faster. The Shield of Ysgramor, unsurprisingly also once wielded by Ysgramor, gives you 20% more magic resistance and 20 more points of health, and it's huge. This is one of the coolest looking shields in the game, and it's perfect for a character using the block skill. During the companion storyline, you're also given another option. You can be a werewolf. This can be super cool as a warrior character, as it really gets you into the bestial mindset. Now let's talk about skills and perks. Like I said, enchanting is up to you, but still disenchant everything you find. Enchantments can be placed on all your gear to increase damage and boost all your stats. But what about heavy armor, smithing, two-handed, one-handed, and block? Well, with block, as I said, literally get all the perks if you want to be a character that uses a shield. They're all super powerful and add great effects to your character. You can level your block skill by using your shield, which includes shield bashing, not just blocking. Remember to get on that shield charge time with that shield charge perk. Another awesome perk is called Quick Reflexes, and this makes time go to slow motion if you're blocking during an enemy's power attack. This provides for some really cinematic moments, as when your enemy comes straight at you with a big overhand attack, you can block to slow time and then whip around them, then go to their back and start swinging and take them out. Again, I don't recommend this for first time players, but if people want to level block for role-playing purposes or just for your own personal enjoyment of the game, one easy way is to block damage from giants. These creatures have the strongest melee attacks of the wilderness monsters in Skyrim, but make sure you're high enough level and have enough health first, or you'll just die straight away. One strategy involves bringing health potions, or if you're more of a paladin type, healing spells. If you've done the Dark Brotherhood, you can also keep shield bashing Shadowmere. Next, we have the heavy armor skill. This is going to increase your armor rating, and once you get all the perks, it will give you a nice variety of effects, including making you take less falling damage and reflect melee damage. I honestly recommend getting all the perks when you can, unless of course you're not going to be wearing a full set of heavy armor. This skill will level up as you adventure through Skyrim and take damage while wearing it. As you could guess, a great way to level it up is to purposefully take damage. If you're strong enough, you can let a giant smack you and then run away, but early on you'll definitely die. Then we have the smithing skill. Smithing is used to create your own armor and weapons, and to improve them to increase their armor rating and damage. When it comes to this, you only get the perks you're going to use. So if you're going to be using heavy armor only, don't bother learning how to smith light armor if you don't want to wear it. Just head up the right side of the perk tree till you can make it to the dragon bone weapons and armor. Or maybe you just want Daedric. Also, if you want to smith up enchanted items, you'll need the arcane blacksmith perk. To level smithing, you'll have to craft a whole bunch of stuff. One effective way is to continually craft dwarven arrows and dwarven bows. Smelt all that scrappy Dwemer junk you find in dwarven ruins to assist with this. Finally, we have one-handed and two-handed. I'll explain these skills together because the way they work is pretty much the same. So you level these skills by causing damage with their respective weapons, and in terms of perks, this is what I suggest. Firstly, with one-handed, I suggest getting all 5 ranks of the Armsman perk, which affects damage, and also get the Fighting Stance perk. Then get Savage Strike. Savage Strike makes standing power attacks do 25% bonus damage and have the chance of decapitating enemies. I should mention now that beheaded enemies cannot be raised through conjuration, which makes this perk great against necromancers. If you're a dual-wielding character, you'll want to pick up every perk relating to dual-wielding. You may have noticed I didn't say get Paralyzing Strike, Critical Charge, or any of the weapon specialization perks. These perks are pretty cool, but they're not the most amazing things either, so it's better for you to spend your perks on something more necessary and maybe get these perks later if you have spare perk points to allocate and you really want them, but they're not that great. Now with two-handed, I recommend the exact same thing. Get the first 5 damage related perks, then get the bridging perk called Champion Stance, to then get Devastating Blow for the same decapitating advantage. Two-handed has a special perk that one-handed doesn't, called Sweep, and this lets you hit multiple enemies in one strike using a sideways power attack. This is quite useful, so be sure to get it. And again, the final perk involving a chance of paralysis, the weapon specialization perks, and also the sprinting power attack perk are optional. Sprinting power attacks for one-handed and two-handed are pretty cool though. I recommend leveling up these skills properly, but again, it's another situation where you could keep attacking Shadowmere if you wanted to. If you don't know who that is, you're probably new and shouldn't be doing it anyway. On a note with one-handed though, your leveling speed is actually determined by base damage and not how much damage is actually done. Therefore, a Daedric Dagger is the best weapon for training one-handed due to its base damage and speed. Finally, I recommend paying for training for all your warrior skills to help them progress faster. Cool weapons for warriors include the Ebony Blade, the Longhammer, Spellbreaker, and the Mace of Molag Bal. Luckily, you're spoiled for choice, so go forth and explore, and may Talos guide you. Subscribe for more Skyrim content just like this. We're going to be giving our subscribers a whole lot of goodies. Social media links are in the description. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Scott, and I'll nerd out with you again very soon.